Hello. Welcome back to school. The last couple videos in this little series I'm throwing together we've talked about the music staff, and we've talked about the treble clef or the G clef or the sol clef. And the last video I put up was a little practice video. This video is going to cover what is known as the bass clef. And it denotes the pitch fa or the letter F. So this looks like a backwards letter C with 2 points. And where these 2 points are, they denote the pitch fa. This is the bass clef or the F clef or the fa clef. And so if you can read the bass clef, you're doing really good. It means you're going to be more musically literate than the people who can just read the treble clef. So the bass clef, we're going to go through all the notes. We're going to do the ascending first. So this first pitch, this is our starting note. This is going to be fa, or alphabetically it's going to be the pitch F. The next note above it is going to be sol. And I need to extend my staff longer. Draw that pitch out a little bit. Okay, so we have fa and sol. I'm going to play these so you know what they sound like. Those are the 2 pitches that I just read out. So continuing up, we have fa, sol. The next pitch is going to be la. Alphabetically, la is going to be A. Sol is G. And la is A. And we've already hit the top of the staff. So now we're going to descend from sol. So this is going to be fa, mi. Can't sing that low. It's going to be me. Either way, it's going to be me. Alphabetically, this is going to be the pitch E, and on the staff it looks like that. So the first 4 pitches that we have, they sound like this. So now we're going to descend down, which is going to quickly descend out of my vocal range. So fa, sol, la, mi. And the next pitch is going to be the pitch re. Alphabetically, it's going to be the pitch D. and that's written on the third line. Re, you have do, unless I have a cold, I don't normally sing this low. This is the pitch C, do. 3 more pitches. Do falls down to T, which is here, and this is going to be the pitch B, and then La is here, and again, La is always going to be the pitch A. And the last note we have on the bass staff is Sol, which is also the pitch G. So, if I were to play all these, this is what they would sound like. So those are all the pitches on the bass staff. Obviously, these are used for lower instruments, the lower part of the piano or organ or whatever instrument, keyboard instrument. Obviously, basses like string bass, they will read off this staff. So, one thing I would like to mention, again, as the same with the treble clef, you want to be able to look at these and be able to instantly name that pitch. Example, if I again took out all these letters, hope they're all written down in your notebook. Stuff like this would be very common for early musicians to be quizzed, examined on, as it is the foundational for learning to read music. Again, if I were to say point to this note, could you give me the letter or the solfege? If I pointed to this note, could you give me the solfege? If I pointed to this note over here, which I can't, yeah, that second note to the end, could you give me the letter or solfege on that? If I pointed to this note, could you give me the solfege letter? So again, this is just another step into broadening your musical literacy. These are the 2 main staves that are used, the treble and the bass clef. Now, on a side note, more or less kind of like an interesting note, these symbols, they are actually derivative of alphabetic letters. If I were to draw, we'll draw a staff, make it large enough so I can make 2 symbols on here. E, and so the treble clef is nothing more than a stylized letter G. If I were to draw the staff or the treble clef, if you see this part here that circles, you can see that almost as the letter G. This is where these symbols came from. They came from just letters, alphabetic letters, and this is a very fancy stylized letter G, and this G denotes this line as being this pitch G. The bass clef is a stylized letter F. If you think of two little lines coming off here, fancy, that's how you get your letter F. And again, it denotes this third line as the pitch Fa or F. And again, that line would be solid because it doesn't have any bearings on this staff. So this is just interesting side stuff as far as where these symbols came from. G or sol, and then the bass, and this is the F or Fa. So this is just kind of interesting history stuff. A lot of music notation came from the Roman Catholic Church. Prior to notation, the monks and nuns, they would memorize all their music. They'd have to repeat it over and over again to get it in their head. Obviously, they didn't really have much going on, so that's what they did. They just sang these chants all day, and that's how they memorized them. There's a guy by the name of Guido de Arezzo, if I'm remembering this correctly. I think he is somewhere in Italy. He had ran across a Gregorian chant for, if I remember correctly, I think it was Saint John. He had noticed that in this chant there were pitches that lined up with it kind of like did this ascending scale. Let me see if I could find it for you. Hold on. Pause. Okay, so welcome to my history book. These here are early examples of how music was written down. And if you see, they're just little squiggles. They didn't give absolute pitch. They just gave, it basically was a reference for the singers, just as a memory. Oh, that goes higher than, whatever. This next example is a little bit more of the same. I'm trying to see. I don't see. Sometimes they would draw a single line or two to denote certain pitches. Like here's an example where they have the different pitches, but they're not necessarily on a traditional staff. As how we have nowadays. So this is just early examples of music notation. This is the chant that I was mentioning. No, this is not the chant I was mentioning. Where the heck did it go? Yeah, I don't know what this is, but this is not the chant because this is too long and it's not the right one. But I thought it would be in here. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, these are going into, this is going into other stuff that doesn't have anything to do with, what I'm trying to find. Okay, well, there is a chant hymn, and the various tones of solfege are derivative of Latin words, and I'm not finding it right now, which is a huge bummer because it's like super common and I can't find it in my music history book. I think I found it. It's not written in the Gregorian notation they modernized. They have it written in modern staff. But basically this here is the pitch do, or ut. At one point they called it ut. This is the pitch re. If I'm reading this, no, this is, let me see here. Ut, re is here. I can't read this writing. I got the light of the sun, and it's hard to read the writing. Somewhere around here is the pitch mi, and I'm not, oh, here it is, mi. And then we have fa, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes, that says fa. And coming down here, this is where we get sol. And then la is right here. And that is basically where the end of the solfege is. What they did to get T and, what is it? At one point they called the top pitch T, they called it C. And they basically got that from the end of the line where it says Sancti Johannes, if I'm reading this correctly. Sancto Johannes? I can't read that. Nope, it says Sancti Johannes. So this is where they get the SJ. They would write it as an I in Latin. So that's where C came from. Later in the I think it was 1800s, I forget the exact year, somebody came along and says, well, let's take out C and let's call it T, because we're going to use C for other purposes, which we'll talk about later. But this is basically where the solfege came from. And somewhere in here they do talk about the clef, how they came about, but I'm not even sure if I could find that in here. But yeah, so that's basically the bass clef with a little bit of history behind it. So like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring the notification bell for all notifications.